So typically I record Dolphins post game right after the game and it goes up the next day and whatnot. I decided I wanted to wait until later on in the day after this Chargers game. And I'm so glad I did. Because my initial talking point was going to be how, Miami is a team that they have the flashes and they have the pieces to be a really good team, but they're just not getting it out of that roster and something is missing. Well, during Tua's press conference, we found out what was missing, kind of in a way. Tua's in his press conference after the games pretty much threw everyone under the bus, or a good chunk of players under the bus, saying that players are showing up late to players only meetings, and you're skipping them, and they're not fully buying in. They're not buying into this leadership that the Dolphins have, and well, first off, who was the main leader? He's the highest paid guy. He's a captain of this team. He is the starting quarterback. Player leadership begins and ends with him. Second off, McDaniel was then asked about this, and he said that from what I'm asking of these players, they're giving it their all, essentially pointing the blame to everyone but him in terms of the player only stuff, because that's extracurricular for the team. So putting the blame back on the Tua. It's a bunch of pointing fingers. It's a bunch of this guy's not doing this guy's not doing that, and everyone's not doing this. It's a bunch of just childish stuff. But the main thing I wanted to really harp on was during the off season and what was talked about there during the off season, because part of the issues last year was players not showing up to meetings and players being late to meetings. And in the offseason, there's all this talk about, oh, we got the troublemakers out. We got those people that were disrespecting the leadership out of the building. So what happened? Did they really get out the building? Did they really get out the building, or did you buy into some fake talk that actually is that people didn't back up? Like what's the real story here? There's something that's being missed, and at the end of the day, it's unacceptable. You have Hall of Famers coming out and talking about it. You have retired players who are bound for the Hall of Fame talking about it. You have even some current players that are still out of a job, but you still have some players that are not technically retired talking about it. Not even in this specific instance, but Larry Zonka had a tweet after the game talking about how incomplete the team looks and talking about kind of the nature of this team this year and comparing it to the differences that Shula would do, which is we're gonna practice and practice until you cannot get it wrong. And how this team doesn't feel like they're practicing to that same level and they're not playing to that same level. And why is Larry Zonka coming out and saying that's so important? Well, Larry Zonka is the standard. He is the standard of Dolphin football, mainly because a lot of those other players from that time, have sadly since passed away, and Don Shula has sadly since passed away. But of the players that are still around, Larry Zonka has been the most vocal from that 72 team about the state of the Dolphins, and I love him for that. Larry Zonka is fantastic. I love that he's still very passionate about this team and still very vocal about this team. But it does do a lot to shed light about the current culture in Miami. On top of the press conference that came out and everything that happened, and Stephen Ross being field level for those final moments, I wanted to wait to record this post game until the next day, until Monday. And then that press conference happened. And it's the same things that we saw last year. Nothing has changed with this team from last year to this year. And I am one of the people that can say that I fell for it. Entering the season, I thought that there was a chance that this team was different and that they might have been able to turn a corner and that they have the piece, they have the talent on the roster to be able to prove to us that they did. And through a month and a half, not only did they not prove to us that this is a complete team and that a team that can compete, they directly to everyone's face stated that nothing has changed by this press conference. This might be the best thing Tua has said in a press conference this season. Not because it was a great thing to say in the first place, because again, you're pointing the blame at everyone but really yourself, and you let in, you let in a locker room issue escape into the media. You never want that to happen. But it's great that he said it because it's a very likely chance that this will force change because of the backlash, not from just the fans, not from just media, but from very highly respected former players coming out and being like, what is this? What this is not a championship caliber style of talking to the media. It's gonna force change. Now, to what degree, I'm not sure. But I am still expecting change to come tomorrow or today as when this is uploaded or sometime this week. But Miami's next opponent is the Cleveland Browns. They're going to be going against Dylan Gabriel and that Browns team, which has not looked good this season. Even in their one win, they looked very rough against the Packers. If Miami loses to the Browns, it's going to be a very, very fun week to be a Dolphins fan, I think. We're going to see a lot of overreactions and a lot of chaos. It's going to be very interesting to be a Dolphins fan on that next Monday. But with all that being said, thank you all for tuning in. I do really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new. Leave a like. You know the whole YouTube spiel at this point. Comment down below your thoughts. And I'll see you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.